Hello, my name is Lisa Bloomquist-Palmer. I am the founder of FloxieHope.com, and I'm also the founder of the FloxieHope podcast and a couple of ebooks regarding fluoroquinolone toxicity. I am happy to give you any information that you would like about fluoroquinolone toxicity. I've been asked to answer a few questions, but if you would like to do an in-person interview, I can do that via Skype if that would be more comfortable. Hopefully you'll be able to get all of the information that you need from this video. So I am based in the United States in Colorado, and when I was 32 years old, I took ciprofloxacin to treat a urinary tract infection, and shortly after I took the ciprofloxacin, I stopped being able to walk. I went from being able to do CrossFit and yoga and just being a very active person to having very painful feet and being very weak and having very painful hands. I was exhausted. I lost my memory. I lost my reading comprehension. It was a really scary and quite horrible experience. And once I finished with that experience, once my body healed, my body and mind and spirit healed a bit, I decided to start my website, which is again FloxieHope.com. That's FloxieHope.com, and you can read a bit more about my story there. So I've been asked to answer a few questions about fluoroquinolones. So first off, what are fluoroquinolones? Fluoroquinolones are a class of antibiotics that includes ciprofloxacin, levofloxacin, moxifloxacin, and ofloxacin. I think that there are a few others, but those are the most commonly used fluoroquinolones, at least here in the United States. They may go by other names in other parts of the world, but these drugs are powerful antibiotics. They have been used to treat a variety of infections. I took it to treat a urinary tract infection. They are also given to people for traveler's diarrhea and bronchitis and sinus infections, prostatitis, a variety of infections. They're very powerful antibiotics. They've also been used to treat anthrax infections, and unfortunately, they have very debilitating side effects, and one of the worst things about the side effects is that they don't go away as soon as you finish taking the drugs. And I think that that's something that is most surprising about this, is that it's not just a side effect of a drug, it really induces a toxicity syndrome in people. So the fluoroquinolones, each one of the fluoroquinolones, their name has flox in it. So like I said, ciprofloxacin, and that's why people call themselves Floxies. So it's a little bit of a slang term. Some people like it, some people don't. The FDA, the United States Food and Drugs Administration, that's what FDA stands for, coined a term, fluoroquinolone-associated disability. That's FQAD, and a lot of people prefer that term. But kind of either way, people end up very hurt and disabled by these drugs. Often the symptoms of the toxicity syndrome can be delayed, and also there seem to be tolerance thresholds where people seem to be fine the first time they take fluoroquinolone, and then the second time they take a fluoroquinolone, or the third time or fourth time, they end up with this toxicity syndrome that can be really devastating. You know, I got off really lightly with the symptoms that I said. There are some people who have intractable insomnia. There are people who have severe psychiatric reactions. There are people who there are people who every tendon in their body is weakened and they are in severe pain. There are people who have ruptures in every tendon. There are people who suffer from such severe chronic fatigue that they cannot get out of bed. The pain can be really horrible. People can have horrible headaches. They can have horrible tinnitus. Each one of these symptoms can be absolutely devastating and life-altering, and a lot of people have multiple symptoms at the same time. So I really want to make sure that people realize just how devastating this syndrome can be. It's not just, hey, you had a bad reaction to this drug and you got hives for a little while and you'll feel better after a week. No, this is something that is severe, it's life-altering, it's chronic, and it's really horrific for a lot of people. So the mechanism of action for fluoroquinolones are what are called topoisomerase inhibitors, and you could just look up on Wikipedia or the drug warning label what the mechanism of action for these drugs is. But basically, what a topoisomerase is it's an enzyme that's necessary for DNA and RNA replication, and the drugs, these fluoroquinolones, disrupt that process. And they are supposed to only disrupt that process for bacteria, but there have certainly been some people who have hypothesized that they disrupt that process of DNA and RNA replication for our mitochondria, which are little organelles in our cells that are responsible for energy production. They're also very similar to bacteria in the way that they're structured, and some people even think that they are kind of derivatives of ancient bacteria way back in our evolution. But fluoroquinolones have been shown to damage mitochondria, and that is really the dominant theory about how they cause such harm. There are some other theories about how and why they cause harm. Epigenetic triggers. It's certainly possible that the fluorine in fluoroquinolones does damage. Fluorine can displace iodine. And then that can cause thyroid problems. And then with thyroid problems can come chronic illness. Fluorine can also displace minerals, and mineral displacement is also a theory for how fluoroquinolones do the damage that they do. They've been shown to deplete magnesium and iron and other trace minerals. A vitamin imbalance is also a possibility. There are all sorts of possibilities for how fluoroquinolones do the damage that they do. And, rather than just saying like, well, we don't know exactly what they do, like which mechanism of damage is dominant, I prefer to think that they're all applicable. These drugs do severe damage to people, and there are multiple ways in which they damage people. So, like I was saying earlier, the syndrome can just be absolutely devastating to people. There are people who have recovered from fluoroquinolone toxicity. I am a person who has recovered. I'm able to live a normal life. I don't necessarily have symptoms on an ongoing basis. I'm able to eat regularly. I'm able to exercise regularly. I'm able to work. But I am a lucky one. I have friends and I know of colleagues who are permanently disabled from these drugs. They went from being healthy, active, productive members of society to not being able to get out of bed anymore. They went from having a job to being completely disabled. They have innumerable health issues now through really no fault of their own. The only thing that they did was follow their doctor's advice and take a prescription that they were prescribed, and the effects of that prescription, the effects of that medication, have just devastated their lives. So please do keep in mind that even though FloxieHope.com is full of recovery stories, there are plenty of people who never recover. And this is a problem throughout the world. I think that in the US has been where people have really been the loudest about it, but the EMA, the European Medicines Agency, is having a hearing about fluoroquinolones and fluoroquinolone dangers, fluoroquinolone safety, fluoroquinolone toxicity in June. And I encourage anyone who has experienced chronic illness or any sort of mysterious illness after taking a fluoroquinolone to look into whether you are a victim of fluoroquinolones. And if you realize that you are, I encourage you to attend that EMA meeting and to testify. So, goodness, I'm struggling to think of what else I was supposed to say. There is a lot of information about fluoroquinolones and fluoroquinolone toxicity on FloxieHope.com, especially under the links and resources page. There are hundreds of journal articles about the damage that these drugs do. This isn't just patient reports. This is backed up by science. It's backed up by the FDA. It's backed up by, soon it will be backed up by the EMA. So I encourage people to avoid using these drugs except for in life or death situations. They are very dangerous drugs that can do very serious harm to people. It could happen to you, it could happen to a loved one. So I encourage you to not take these drugs and to really heed the warnings of the people who are screaming about the dangers of them. So again, Lisa at FloxieHope.com. If you need anything, please reach out to me. My email address is FloxieHope@gmail.com. Thank you.